Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone this morning? I thought I would get on here and have a little chat. I've been getting a lot of comments with people how they're planting their own gardens, and that just tickles me to death. I'm glad to see everybody's enjoying the outdoors, and they enjoy trying to grow a garden as well as I do. It's a really good thing. I'm here having my morning coffee. Y'all have a cup? You can tell I just woke up. My eyes are all swollen. Well, they're always swollen from allergies, but they're extremely swollen this morning. But anyway, I just thought I'd get on here and have a chat with everybody this morning and talk about gardening. I had one lady said that she planted ginger. She watched my video. But she said her ginger was turning brown and yellow. And that could be from several things. Ginger does not like to be in the hot sun, for one. Ginger does not like to be real wet. So if you have either one of those things going on, one, if it's in the hot sun all day long, move it in the shade. If the soil is real wet, let it dry out a little bit. You're watering it too much. So that could be the two things. Other than that, I don't know what your environment is. So I don't know what your ginger is experiencing. But that's two of my suggestions. Move your ginger in the shade and don't water it so much if the ground is staying real moist. For one, ginger does not like the hot sun. And any root crop, they do not like to stand in water. I mean, you water it occasionally, but then you let it dry. You don't keep it wet. Not wet. I mean, that's not good for it. So, I hope that helped a little bit anyway. It is such a beautiful day, and I had a hard time going to sleep last night. It was probably 3 a.m. or so before I fell asleep, so I slept kind of late this morning. So I'm not fully awake, so I decided, well, I'll just get on here and do a little chat, talk about with people this morning. I'll put up another video later. But yeah, if anybody is growing your own garden and you're trying any of the things that I'm telling you in my videos, if you have any problems, post it in the comments. Let me know what's going on with your garden. And I'll answer any of the questions that I see. And like I said, I check my comments several times during the day. So I will answer your comment or your question or, whatever problem you might have commented on, I'll respond to it. I thought about going fishing this morning, but I slept a little bit too late. So, and it's so calm. It's just the perfect day or the perfect morning to go fishing. I don't know. I still may go fishing today, but it might be later. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not awake yet. So I got to have my coffee and get awake before I decide what I want to plan for the day. I'm not exactly sure what the temperature is going to be. Let me look it up. 69 right now. It's going to be 83 today. So it's going to hit about 80 by 2 p.m. So that's not too bad. It'll be 87 tomorrow and 88 the next day. But Friday, it's gonna be 88 degrees, and it's gonna have a chance of some rain. So that'll help. I mean, it's giving the plants a few days to kind of recuperate from all the heavy rain that we've had. And then Friday, we're supposed to get some more rain, so that'll be good if we get another good shower Friday. That means I don't have to get out there and water, although I have been putting compost tea to some of my plants. Because even if it rains, your plants need food, and your compost tea is your food for your plants. So I didn't get compost tea to everything, but I got it to my roses on the side or the property line. I got it to the roses in the back the last ones we planted. I got it to the plants in the wishing well. I don't think I got any to the ones in the front yet. I may do that later today. Put a little bit more compost tea to them, so when we do get a rain Friday, it'll wash that compost tea down into the roots real good. And I've run out of places to plant stuff, so I don't want to buy any more buckets or totes or big pots right now. I think I've added enough to my garden for the summer. So, and like I said, there's days or weeks that I have to depend on watering with compost tea. I can't water with a water hose, so I don't want to put so many plants out there in buckets and totes and pots that I can't keep watered if I have to. But we'll see about next year. Next season I may add more. I don't know. We'll just see what happens. And it was the funniest thing. I came across, I think it was Bloomin's post on Facebook last night about her kids when they were little, about how she nicknamed them. And there was reasons, behind why she nicknamed them, what she did. I thought that was adorable. I never really named my kids, but I mean, I never thought about naming them, anything little funny, cute nicknames from maybe some of the things they did, But yeah, that was adorable, I thought. And I don't know what it is. Here lately, I've been having a hard time getting my videos uploaded. Like that one that finally I got published last night. That thing uploaded since about noon yesterday. Every time I check up, it was uploading. Checks will start soon. I thought to myself, what is going on? It should not take that long to upload a video. I've got to go check on little buddy. I fed him earlier, and his bowl is out here. Yeah, I fixed his food and I put it out there, and I can't leave it on the porch because if I do, the ants will devour it. So I leave it out there long enough I think he's through eating, and then I'll bring it in the house and put it in the refrigerator until I feed him again, because I don't want the ants to devour the food. If they do, then I've got to dump all the food out. And he's got about half of what I put in his bowl this morning left in there. So I'll just keep it in here, keep the ants away from it. And then, about mid-afternoon when he's hungry again, I'll put the bowl back out there and put him a few treats in the top of it. It's funny because sometimes he'll pick out the treats and he'll eat them, and he'll leave the rest of it and look at me like, okay, I ate all the good stuff. Give me some more. It's really funny. If he's really hungry, though, he'll eat it all. He don't care. Oh, I tell you, it's going to be a beautiful day. Beautiful, beautiful day. Oh, and one thing I'm going to do to my garden, you don't have to. This is totally your preference. But I buy like a 5-pound bag of Epsom salts. And then after my plants get growing real good, I'll go around and I'll put maybe a teaspoon full of Epsom salts to each plant. Or I'll just put, like I'll take a 5-gallon bucket and I'll put maybe a 1/4 cup of Epsom salts in that compost tea that's in that bucket. And when I water the plants, I'll water not only with compost tea, but I'll have Epsom salts in there too. The Epsom salts does something to the plants. It's like a wake up. It's like, okay, you're sleeping. You need to wake up now and grow and produce. And so I just put just a tiny bit, to my plants. And, we put, sometimes we'll put the fishy mulching, if you have some. I mean, I've got some left in my shed from several years ago that I used it. So I'm just basically trying to use it up. So I'll put a cup, maybe a capful, a little bitty capful, which comes to about a tablespoon of fish emulsion to a 5-gallon bucket. And, water it with that as well. I mean, that's like a fertilizer. That's why I suggested if you go fishing and you catch fish, it doesn't matter how small or big they are. If you're not going to eat all those fish, put one in your bucket. Just go around your buckets. If you got 2 or 3 fish, put them in 2 or 3 buckets. I mean, years ago, during pioneer days, and some people do it today, if you don't have to worry about animals digging it up. They'll take a fish, they'll dig a hole, put that fish down in there, put a little bit of dirt in it, and then put their plant right on top. And that's all the fertilizer you need for that plant. And you'll be surprised how much it boosts that plant because it's giving it food constantly from that fish. I don't do that because I'm afraid I would have animals digging my yard up. Or if they got in the totes, they'd just dig out the tote. So I prefer to put it in the compost tea bucket, let the sun break it down in the water, and then just water with it. That works best for me. Worm castings are good if you have worm castings, or if you can afford to buy any. They're pretty expensive. You can put just a tiny bit of worm castings in your 5-gallon bucket of compost tea. And that's another added benefit to your plants. That's like a treat to your plants, When you eat your meal, you have dessert. Well, that's like giving your plant some dessert, is that worm castings. But like I said, if you got real good compost tea, you don't need any type of fertilizer. You don't need the worm castings. You don't need the Epsom salts. You don't need the fish emulsion. But it doesn't hurt, you know. I'm not telling anybody not to use any of that to help their plants grow. I mostly, probably 99% of the time, just use compost tea. And the compost that I put in my pots and my totes, you know, when I build them. I made the mistake one year of putting table scraps in my compost. I went ahead and planted in it, and then I wondered why my plant died. Well, it was for the simple reason that the ants got in the pot to get the table scraps, and they also ate the plant roots. So you don't want that to happen. So I've never done that again. I mean, if I put any type of a compost in my buckets and totes or pots, it's compost that's already broken down, or it's green leaf matter, like, excuse me, like I will take a collard leaf, a cabbage leaf, a leaf off of a zucchini plant, a leaf off of a squash plant. You know, any leaves that are off of your garden that are green matter, the worms love that, but the ants stay away from it. And it breaks down and it makes great plant food for your plants. Other than that, I always stick with, if I'm building a tote or a bucket or a pot for planting season, I do it several weeks before I want to plant in it. That way the ants have time to get in there, do their thing, leave that plant or leave that pot alone. So by the time you're planting your food in it, you know, you're putting your tomato plant or your okra plant or whatever type of plant you're going to put in there, the ants will not bother it anymore. So that's another tip. I know I've mentioned it a few times in my videos, but sometimes when you watch a video, you don't catch every little word that's said in that video. So I'm just trying to remind people. You know, any of the totes or buckets, like the bucket I built to plant my ginger in, the matter that I put in there was all green leafy matter from the garden. No food scraps. Just leafy green matter I put in there with native dirt, leaves, broken down wood bark. You know, I built my pot just like normal. I just, instead of putting food scraps, I put the green leafy matter in there. Or if you've got a compost tea bucket with a lot of matter that's broke down in the bottom of the bucket, like leafy things that didn't completely break down yet, or whatever that you can scoop out and put in that pot, that works great as well, because the ants will not, you know, go to that. They'll leave your plant alone. I was trying to think of some other things I had on my mind that I was going to mention. And I guess I'm going to have to start writing a list, because usually when I sit down and start talking about different things, I forget about some of the most important things that I was going to tell everybody. But the sun and the shade is one thing that can deter your plant from growing. If you plant or put a plant in the open sun all day long that does not like sun, that needs partial shade to full shade, your plant's not going to do good. So do your research. Like peppers, squash, zucchini, cucumbers, they love the sun. I mean, as long as it's not 110 degrees out there. They mostly love the sun. That's why mine do so well in the open garden area where it gets sun mostly all day long. But now, like the cabbage, the 2 cabbage I have planted out there, it does not like that hot afternoon sun. That's why I put those blinders up. That way I can put it over the top of the cabbage and shade it, or I can hang it down behind on one side and shade it from that hot afternoon sun that's coming this way. That shade is right there. And my cabbage have been doing a lot better since I put that shade up. Because you can move the shade. It doesn't have to stay there all day. But that's one thing to keep in mind when you put your garden out there. What plants love the hot sun and what plants need partial shade to full shade. I mean, there's some plants that need full shade all day long, just like some plants need full sun all day. And if you get it mixed up, then you're going to sit back and wonder, well, why are my plants not doing well? So that's one thing you've got to consider. Like peas and beans don't like the hot sun. I mean, there is some type of beans or peas that do, but you've got to know which ones like it and which ones do not. Now, like the snow peas, those do not like hot sun all day long. And I've got mine planted in that big tub out there to where it does get hot sun all day long. It gets the morning sun, it gets the afternoon sun, it gets whatever sun is out there all day. Footlong beans don't matter so much, or snap peas don't matter so much. They kind of enjoy the sun as long as you keep plenty of water to them. So, yeah, you've got to do your research on your plants. Or if you buy your seeds, usually it's on the back of the seed. Like this one, let me see what it says about this. Like my patty pan squash that I bought because I wanted to plant some. Let's see what it says. Okay, you plant after the danger of frost in a sunny location. But it doesn't say where to move them to. But I know for sure squash will produce better if they get sun. They get plenty of sun most of the day, especially that morning sun. So a lot of my plants, like my pepper garden that we planted, all those black buckets lined up behind the backside of that shed over here, they get all of that bright morning sun up till about noon. And then when the sun shifts and it's coming from this direction, they're in the shade. So the hottest time of the afternoon, those plants are shaded. Because pepper plants love the sun, but they also like a little bit of shade. They don't like their leaves burnt with hot sun. So, and again, you got to make, excuse me again, my allergies. Even though pepper plants love the sun, and they will produce better when they get a lot of sun, and they'll produce better in the hot weather. I mean, pepper plants, when it gets cold, they just stop producing. They won't produce at all. They love the heat. That's one reason I planted some bell pepper out in the tote that's out on that side of the yard, that's out in the open garden area where it gets sun all day long. And I wanted to see how well they're going to produce peppers there. Because when I had them on this side, they got a lot of the morning sun, not much of the afternoon or evening sun. They did start producing, but they didn't produce a whole lot. And I blamed it on it being too hot because we had that 110 degree weather most of the summer last year. So I've got some planted back there at that same spot on this side. And then I got that other tub planted on this side. And I'm just anxious to see which one's going to do the best. So far, the ones out here in the open sun are doing the best. And I realized I don't have as much hot pepper planted this year as usual. So I think what I'm going to do is I've got a bag of dehydrated peppers, and there's all kind of, there's hot peppers, there's banana peppers, sweet banana pepper. Most of these are hot. There's habaneros, there's all kind of hot peppers in here. And this is what I did last year. I went through and got out some of the seeds, because I use these dried peppers to season a lot of food with. You know, I put in the pot when I'm cooking it. So what I'm going to do, and you can tell that I went through and got a lot of pepper seed out, because before there was a ton of seed along the bottom, and I got most of it out last year that was just had fallen through to the bottom, and I planted it out in the garden, and that's where a lot, probably about 60-70% of my hot peppers came from, was this bag of dehydrated peppers. But like I said, they're all basically hot peppers. And, you know, they started growing and I didn't know one from the other. And I said, ooh, that pepper looks funny. Look at the way it's growing. But it was the kind of pepper it was. It was supposed to grow that way. Because like I said, there's all kind of peppers. Let me get notifications turned off of this. I hate it every time I try to do a video and I forget to turn my phone off. I start getting notifications. And I don't like it. So I'm going to put it on Do Not Disturb until I tell it to disturb me. Maybe that'll help. But yeah, if you dry your peppers like I do, I mean, I don't dry all of them, but some that I think I might want to plant, especially the hot peppers, I'll go ahead and dehydrate them so I don't have to buy so many seeds. You can dehydrate them and store them in a bag. That way they don't mold or anything. But you saw how I do a lot of my bell pepper. I'll just buy a red pepper or a green bell pepper or a yellow one or a gold bell pepper. And when I cut it apart to cook that pepper, I'll take all those seeds out of it and I go throw it in the garden. I mean, I've got tons of seeds coming up right now from where I threw bell pepper seed out there. I threw tomato seed because, you know, if I sliced a tomato, I would take a thin slice of that tomato and go put it in the garden. And 9 times out of 10, that seed's going to come up. That's the most inexpensive way I know to get a seed to plant your garden with, is just buy the food that you want to eat. Take the seeds and plant the seeds. I know there's some places, I don't know where they get their food from, but their fresh produce has been irradiated or whatever they call it. And that's to kill germs, and it's to prolong the shelf life of it. And if you get hold of some of those, they're not going to grow. But most of the plants or the produce that I buy either comes from Brookshire's, Walmart, Aldi's, sometimes H-E-B, sometimes Kroger. Most of that have the seeds have come up. And like that ginger. You know, I went to the store to buy ginger because I was out of fresh ginger. And I got to looking at it and I said, oh my God, this would be perfect for planting because it's got the little nodes already growing on it. It's trying to grow right now. So I said, I need to get some of this, at least one piece of it, and go plant it in a pot and just see what happens with it. So that's what I did yesterday, was I planted that piece of ginger, and I'm anxious to see what happens. But I did put it in the shade, or mostly the shade. It gets some little bit of sun during the day, filtered through the trees, but it mostly is in the shade. So we'll see what happens with it. Because like I said, I've never planted ginger before, and so this will be my first experience with planting ginger. But once you get it planted, you can always save a piece of it and replant it. Because you can, Well, you don't want to freeze it if you're going to replant it, but you can store it in a dry, cool place and keep it for a long time. But yeah, I got enough ginger to use to cook with. Plus, I've got the piece that I broke in half and put in that pot to plant. And I got that ginger for less than what a package of seed would cost. So I feel fortunate with that. And if you buy a bell pepper and you cut it because you want to eat that bell pepper and you save those seeds, well, basically those seeds are not costing you anything because you were going to use the bell pepper anyway. So why not? That's what I say. Trying to think of some other stuff that I could mention. Oh, yeah. Like I said also in my videos that I try to trellis my cucumbers, but stuff like watermelon, squash, melons, my cantaloupe or my early dew melons, honeydews, winter squash, butternut squash, all that kind of stuff, I just let go on the ground because I don't have the means to get enough trellising to trellis all of it. And I'm not going to trellis a watermelon when I got to come back later and put a sling up for each individual watermelon to hold it up because it's going to be so heavy. So with those items, I let just go on the ground. Basically go where they want to as long as they stay out of my walkway. I want to keep my walkway clear because I don't want to be stepping on my vines every time I walk around the garden. So, but yeah, my cucumbers are and my beans, tomatoes, stuff like that are the things that I trellis or try to stake up. Because I try to keep my watermelon and my melons and stuff like that. I try to keep the vines growing within the garden area. That's one reason I put the wood chips down, is so they can grow over those wood chips, so when it rains, they're not getting splashed with dirt and that type of thing. Plus my squash plants and okra plants and the other plants in the garden are not getting splashed with dirt when it rains. And also those wood chips keep the moisture down in the ground for the ones that I've got planted in the ground. And I either put leaves or I use the wood chips in the top of my pots and totes for the same reason, to keep them from being splattered with dirt, also to hold moisture in that pot or tote or the big pot. So those are tricks of the trade, really. I would have done a live this morning, but I hadn't planned on it. And I said I didn't want to do a live and not have but maybe one or two people show up. And then everybody just have to watch the video later. So I just decided to make the video, post it so everybody can listen to my comments and get any tips or tricks that they can from whatever I commented on. If you've ever cut open a pumpkin or a cantaloupe, they've got 1,000,001 seeds inside. If you save your seeds from just one melon, one pumpkin, one cantaloupe, or any of those items, you're going to have all the seeds you're going to want to plant that item. And you don't have to pay extra for the seeds. I mean, it's just common sense. I've got a spaghetti squash, and I didn't buy spaghetti squash seed. I bought this one in the store, But you better believe when I cut it open, I'm going to save every one of those seeds. And I may even plant some of those seeds, you know, within the week. Or I'm at least going to save them for next year. If I can find a place to plant it, I will. Like I said, I've got so much planted in each tote and pot now, I don't think I can put any more in there. I've literally run out of places to plant a seed. Yeah, but all those hot peppers that I planted last year that grew so well, and I made all my cowboy candy out of, because it takes a lot of peppers. Once you chop them up and put them in a jar, it takes a lot of peppers to fill 1 pint jar to make, you know, to make the cowboy candy. But this bag right here is the reason I had so many peppers, is because it's all mixture of hot peppers. And I took all the seeds. I didn't mark the peppers. I just knew they were hot. And I planted them. And that's where I got all of those peppers to make cowboy candy last summer. So I need to plant some more of these. I'm going to have to go around and stick a seed or two in each pot and tote around the yard. So I know I'll have some hot peppers. I mean, I did put some out, but it was not out of this bag. And this is what grew so well last year. Yeah, sometimes the seed that you save in your garden grow better the next year than anything else, because you know it already survived in your garden one summer, one growing season. So why wouldn't it survive the next growing season if you save your seeds? And if you can get to a local produce stand where you got fresh vegetables from your local area, that's even better. To buy the fresh tomatoes, the squash, zucchini, any of that stuff, and save seeds and replant them. Because you know if they grew for someone else in your area, they should grow for you too. So, well, I didn't plan on getting on here and talking as long as I have already. So like I said, if there's questions, comments, or anything, leave it in the comments. I will answer it daily. I didn't plan on getting on here and staying on, making a long video. It just turned into a long one. So, please like, share, and subscribe to my videos. I need lots more subscribers. It tickles me every day when I go to my YouTube Studio app and I see I've got another subscriber or two. Just does my heart good. So like I said, please like, share, subscribe to my videos. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see you on my next video. Bye now.